Hey guys, welcome to episode 13. We are super excited to be here with Chelsie Orlofske today.
Chelsie is a certified nutritional therapy practitioner, licensed Restart instructor, and the health and nutrition manager for Eat the 80, a healthy meal delivery service located in Gainesville, Florida. She also has a background in bodybuilding, which allowed her to experience both ends of the spectrum when it comes to fitness and nutrition. Now she is a mindful CrossFitter that focuses on a well-rounded, holistic approach to health and wellness that doesn't involve overeating, over exercising, under eating, and tying your appearance to your self-worth. Through her NTP training, she has finally been able to regain balance in her physical, mental, and emotional health, and now empowers others to do the same with her knowledge and guidance. Welcome to the show, Chelsie. We're so excited to have you on.
Thanks, guys. It's so great to be here. I'm excited to talk about lots of interesting topics today with you guys.
Yeah, so cool. All right, so Chelsie, the first thing that we always like to ask our guests is, what are you loving right now?
Okay, so I am loving this apple cider vinegar detox, air quotes with the detox, but it's a detox drink. And it's funny because it's apple cider vinegar is one of those like superfood health foods that I've known about for so long. And like as an NTP, we learn in our training that it's like so good for stimulating digestion. And I never utilize it. I don't know why. But I actually decided to start making this detox drink just a few nights ago, and I'm obsessed with it. And it actually tastes really good. So I'm having it like in the morning when I wake up and at night, because it kind of like helps with a sweet tooth a little bit. Because it's really sour. But it's made with cayenne pepper, ginger, lemon juice, of course, apple cider vinegar, and cinnamon, and then just a few drops of liquid stevia is what I use to sweeten it, and it's freaking awesome. So that's what I'm loving right now. Pretty obsessed with it.
That sounds amazing. Where did you find out about it or find the recipe?
So you guys probably follow him too, Dr. Josh Axe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I randomly came across one of his YouTube videos on Facebook, and it made me go to his actual YouTube page, and then it was like a rabbit hole. I just started watching all of his YouTube videos, and that was one of them. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to try that because that actually looks really good. And sure enough, it was. So Dr. Axe, he got me.
Yeah. Now we know where to find it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try that. Sounds good.
Very cool. All right. So today we're going to talk about mindset and body awareness. So Chelsie, do you want to just give us a little bit of your background in bodybuilding or like being a bikini athlete?
Yeah. So this actually was a few years ago. So I used to live in Nashville, Tennessee. That was where I moved to after I graduated college in 2013. So I lived in Nashville and I got my first salary job. I was actually working as an accountant. That might be a surprise to some people, but I was a tax accountant. So I had a salary job working. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to hire a personal trainer and just kind of like dip my toes into, fitness, whatever. So I did that. And the first trainer that I ever had, she was like taking me to Planet Fitness and helping me work out and training me. And she was the one, like, and this was before really Instagram was like literally inundated with selfies and like butt photos and like all of that. This was before that really. It was I guess it was maybe like just starting to emerge. But anyways, so she mentioned it to me. She was like, have you ever like considered, competing in bodybuilding or like being a bikini athlete? And I was like, oh, like, no. And I was like, and that doesn't really interest me. But she kept like putting the bug in my ear. And then of course it sparked me to like look into it. And then once you start digging, you started finding things on social media and on Instagram and whatever. And still at this time though, I was like so new to like working out, and I was seeing, I was losing some weight, I was looking better, and it wasn't really that appealing to me still. So I'm not going to go all into it, but I moved on from this personal trainer to another personal trainer that worked with women specifically, that actually had he had experience with women that would compete in bodybuilding. And still at this time, I really didn't, it wasn't like something that I really, really wanted to do. I didn't feel like compelled to do it. But with these women that he worked with, I became friends with them. And then the more that I started to work out and like gain muscle and, really fell in love with fitness and resistance training and just lifting in general, then it's kind of what sparked me. I'm like, I kind of want to see how far I can push my body, getting to this level of athleticism and, with your aesthetics that like a lot of people can't, they will never experience that in their life. I wanted to push myself to see, just to challenge myself to see if I could do it. So then I actually decided to, of course, then start working with this trainer in a more like focused, like very laid out protocol of how to get to this goal several months down the road. So that's kind of where it all started. So it wasn't really like me seeking out this person to like help me become a bikini athlete. I kind of just like fell into it a little bit. And I guess I should say I didn't really fall into it for like the right reasons. And I think a lot of people fall into it for the same reason as me, like just wanting to push themselves and see how far they can push their body and just meet this really crazy goal for themselves. Do I regret it? I definitely don't, because I don't think I would be where I am today without it. But I think that, it's definitely not right for everybody, and everybody should kind of think about their motivations behind it before stepping into that role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. So kind of getting into the whole like bodybuilding and physique mentality, can you talk to us a little bit more about like the macros and kind of like your diet and that whole like mindset and aspect around it? Because I know when you're bodybuilding, it can be pretty restrictive. And I know that for a lot of people, sometimes it's a big mental switch that can sometimes go the wrong way. So can you just talk a little bit more about kind of your diet and that whole aspect of it too?
Yeah, so you're right. It is it's very mental. Actually, I would be safe saying the whole thing is mental. Working out is one thing, but like following the diet and like putting yourself in the gym and doing cardio and sprint workouts to like burn fat quick, you know what I mean? Like HIIT style type workouts, like doing that when you don't feel like you don't want to do it, you don't have the energy to do it. Like it's just mentally pushing yourself to get there, to put yourself in a caloric deficit, to, continue seeing progress. So, and as far as like the diet and following a macronutrient based protocol, and this is kind of where, the calories in, calories out thing comes into play, because, for me at that time, it works. Like, in a lot of people, like if you count your macros and you are consistent, it will work, because you're putting a certain amount of calories in and you're burning more. However, people get to a certain point where their body just rebels against them, and they can be cutting calories and doing more exercise, but like their body just isn't having it. So then that's kind of, that's a whole other story. But basically, you're following a macronutrient based, protocol, working with that coach, and each week, he kind of looks at how much am I eating and how much my activity is, and he tweaks things very slowly and very like on a minute level. So that's where you have to be like really on par with what you're eating. So like you really have to be planning out every single aspect of your day. And especially like, and this is different for, of course, the average person that's just wanting to lose weight or get healthy or whatever. I definitely wouldn't, recommend being this strict on things. But like when like in the future, you have this goal of you're going to be on a stage and you're going to be competing, you really have to mentally keep reminding yourself that and telling yourself like, what's my end goal, focus on that, because then that just allows you to really be so careful and so tedious and very, attention to detail with your diet. And then that's kind of where I saw for myself, and where I see for other people, that it can like really spiral out of control after the fact. Because after you get up on stage and you do your thing, and yes, everybody has a plan. They're like, I'm going to reverse diet. Like I'm going to do this, that, and the other to make sure that I'm like mentally in check, and that I'm not going to, go off the deep end and like gain a bunch of weight afterwards. People can say that, but it's a very different story when you actually get there and you're done, and then like that goal is gone. Like if you did great, like you feel amazing, but maybe you didn't, so then you're like already upset about it. So then that can cause you to maybe turn to like food for comfort, because you've been restricting that for so long, and now you want all of these things that you've not had in such a long time. So you can kind of see right there where, it can become, this very like mental, it's a mental, issue. And some people can handle it, but I find that the majority, the more people I talk to, it's just like this dark hole that you really don't want to go down. So yeah, that's kind of how the diet looks. And I mean, it sounds really, my perspective is just one of the many perspectives. But I think many people can relate, and some people have really amazing experiences competing. And I guess I should say, whenever I was in the process, it was a great process, but after the fact, and I would still say, after you're done competing, that's still, part of your journey, because just because you hit the stage and you did your thing and you competed and you, if you placed, whatever, the journey is still not over, because now you have to bring yourself back to a balanced state. So, for me, trying to get back to that balanced state was really difficult. And I definitely struggled with it.
Now, what was the point, when you're talking about struggling with it and being in this process, did you have a point where you just had an experience, or maybe a wake up call where you were like, you know what, this isn't quite right, and it just didn't feel good anymore?
Yes. So, funny enough, like days later after, it might have been like 2.5 weeks after my show, and it was in Louisville, Kentucky, and my parents came down for it, and then they actually stayed in Nashville for Thanksgiving too. And I moved here to Florida Thanksgiving weekend. So literally I was going through like all of this stuff, like post competition. And at the same time, I was literally gathering all my things and moving here to Florida to pursue a job that I got here in sports nutrition. So to say stress on my body is like, it's an understatement. So yeah, I think whenever I moved here, trying to then find some bit of normalcy with my diet was really hard, because I was already out of my element. I was moving into a house with 2 other girls that I didn't really know. I was getting into a new routine. I was meeting new people. Like, it was really hard. And then you find, trying to keep your diet under control, like very strictly with all of this going on. It was really hard. So I did get to a point though, and I can't really say like if it was a certain, day or whatever, but I do remember, feeling like, because if you're working in sports nutrition with the athletes at UF, we were constantly handling like snacks for them, or like food for them, and all this stuff. Like, I just remember being like so fixated on it. And some people that sounds like so crazy, because they're like, how could like food like consume your thoughts so much? And it's like, if you would have restricted, for so many months, you would understand. But until you've gone through it yourself, it's hard to explain it to somebody. But then, just going through my day and literally having the hardest time, like being able like, okay, like why the heck are you always like fixated on like the food around you and food be like here and there and whatever. I knew that there was like a deeper issue that needed to be addressed. So yeah, it definitely wasn't fun going through all of this and like being here basically by myself and like meeting new people. But I do know now that I've come out of that, it made me stronger and I learned from it. And I found tools to be able to like help me control what was happening to me, especially in my mental psyche.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about those tools? I'm just kind of interested, and I think that, you know, even somebody out there listening that's kind of gone through this same scenario or kind of really just struggled with like the physical, you know, and emotional connection with a restrictive diet. Can you kind of just maybe shed some light on that?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing that I did actually, because this is, I kind of understood that I needed to like talk about these things because they didn't seem normal. And I had been trying to like, you know, quote unquote, you know, fix your diet. Or like, I just need to be more, you know, strict with, you know, it's my self-control, like things like that. But I realized that, you know, this was a really stressful transition for me. I just moved to a new state. Like I had a lot of things going on, and people might think that like therapy is like, oh my God, like why would someone go to therapy? That was probably one of them. It was very therapeutic for me to get in there and tell someone my whole story, what I had gone through, like what I was experiencing. And like, they totally were just there to hear you out and to like literally console you and like make you feel like you were heard and comforted. And she, the person that I saw was actually it was kind of her actually dipping my toes into kind of like body awareness and mindfulness. At that time, I didn't know it because she did it in such a kind of like, it was kind of a strange way, the way that she was doing these exercises with me. But now in hindsight, I totally realized that, oh my gosh, like she was trying to get me in touch with my body and like get me to be more mindful and like really tap into my mindset and my thoughts. So that was number one is kind of asking yourself, like, how serious is this? Like, how long has this been going on? And like, do I need to talk to somebody? Because chances are like, Gainesville is really small and I found several people here that I could have talked to. So chances are there's someone in your area that is qualified to talk to you about these things. And then the second thing was actually food journaling. So this is something that I utilize with Restart participants right now, which Restart is the program that NTPs and NTCs, if any NTPs or NTCs are listening, they would know about this, but it's a 5-week nutrition program and you lead people through a sugar detox. And it kind of touches upon the foundations of health that we learned in the program. And it utilizes things like a food journal and mindfulness techniques and relaxation techniques to really tap into, you know, like what does my body need today? Like, you know, what am I, you know, how's my mindset? How's my stress? That type of thing. Because before I was not asking myself any of those questions, and I was still trying to track within an app, like within a phone, and it's very like calorie, you know, you're seeing the number there. And you're like, oh my God, like I only have like this much food left for like these many meals today, like whatever. Whereas with food journaling, it's more of like an empty template. And then you write down, you know, how did you woke up feeling like this, or you had this meal and you felt this way afterwards. And I think a really important tool as well is to look at your hunger levels after meals, or like your fullness, I guess you should say. Like before you start a meal and then after the meal. That was actually really helpful for me too, because then you're able to like sit there and be like, oh, like how full am I? Because that really stops someone from, you know, continuing to eat something even though they're not hungry. And for anyone that has come from like the competing world, you sort of know that you're so used to having really small meals, you never get full from those meals, like truthfully, you really don't, because you're eating, you're not like right nowadays, we know, 3 full large meals a day, like those are really good because it stabilizes your blood sugar. You can go longer periods of time between meals. That's what I do now. And I love that. And I feel amazing doing that. But whereas coming from, the competing world, typically, I should say, because not everybody does this, you have smaller meals throughout the day, basically to just hold you over till the next time that you're like really hungry. And that's, that's sort of how it goes. But anyways, you're not fully satisfying yourself at any of those meals. So then just think going from that type of eating style and then trying to transition to, just like, just listen to your body after, what is your body? Like your body's never going to be full, it's going to be really hard for you to tell when you're actually full coming from that type of eating style. So actually taking a look at that and writing things down and putting it on paper was like so helpful, like so helpful. And it's hard too. It's really hard to actually, pull out a piece of paper, or if you get some type of food journal template that has like times and like little boxes where you can write things. It's really hard to sit there and physically write it out, because then you're acknowledging it and you're making that like connection in your brain as to what's happening. So for me, that was the single-handedly the most powerful tool that I used to actually overcome this very like dysfunctional relationship with food and with really just transitioning into more normal patterns as far as like when I was eating meals and the amount that I was eating for meals and things like that, because it can be a really ugly cycle, and you definitely don't want to be stuck in that. You don't want to like look back to your 20s or maybe your teens or whatever and be like, I was so worried about my diet and my food for all of those years. And, nobody wants to look back and have that be the one thing that they remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so interesting about the food journal because, up until becoming a part of the NTA and everything, I had always thought of food journals as, using an app or something like that, where it was purely just to track calories, like not actually paying attention to, okay, this is how I feel after I eat this food. And so, I'm a restart instructor as well, and I work with mostly triathletes, and having them just track their food without the calories, it has been a struggle because they're so used to tracking just everything. They're like, wait, you don't need to know the number of calories. And I'm like, I don't. And if you put it on there, I'm going to be mad. But it's been very eye-opening for them to realize, oh, okay, you know what? When I eat an apple at the end of my meal, I'm super gassy and bloated. And they're like, I never realized that it was every day at lunch or my snack. Like I would go to swim practice and feel crappy.
Yeah, totally. It's one of those things is like allows you to connect the dots in so many ways, like with your physically how you feel, mentally how you feel, emotionally. It's pretty amazing. So if anybody out there, if you're listening, like get yourself a food journal or just grab a notebook and start writing things down. It's pretty crazy how much of a difference that makes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a client the other day who pulled out, I asked her when her last pap smear was, and she actually pulled out a notebook that she carries around in her purse, but she uses it for everything. It is like her food journal, because she's obviously going through a nutrition program with us. So it's like her food journal, but it's also just like her everything journal. Like she talked about how she writes down, thoughts from the end of the day, kind of like gratitudes on waking up. And then she uses like a page for that day to kind of go through as a food journal and how she felt, that kind of thing. And then obviously little, cool little reminders about events and last dates and stuff like that. So it's kind of like her everything until that notebook runs out and then she gets a different one. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome. I wonder I'm like kind of journal obsessed. I have a gratitude journal as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that sounds pretty rad. I kind of want hers.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I don't know how big, but it was pretty cool. It was just like a lined, notebook. So it was neat. It was a good little, it was super cool. Super
Very
cool. So this was all pre you becoming an NTP, correct? The bodybuilding and
Yeah.
everything? Yep. So how did you end up becoming interested in holistic nutrition and becoming an NTP?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so I kind of told you guys a little bit, like when I moved here to Florida, this was like literally right after competing, and it was, I got a job here in sports nutrition at the University of Florida working with athletes. So I thought at that time that I wanted to become a registered dietitian and like go back to school, become an RD, and work with athletes within the nutrition sphere. The University of Florida, they had 5 dietitians working on staff to deal with all of the athletes, all of the different teams. So I really dove right into this very like high level, high stress environment. I mean, kudos to these women working with these athletes. Like they give their heart and soul and tons of their time. Like they sacrifice their weekends. They literally, everything they did revolved around these athletes, their weekends as well. And so you really had to be like in it for these athletes. And however, whenever I was there working in sports nutrition and kind of seeing things firsthand and getting an idea of what we were feeding the athletes, and in the midst of this, I was actually becoming very interested in the ketogenic diet. I have a friend down in Tampa, Florida, and he does quite a bit of research with athletes and ketogenic diets. His name is Ryan Lowry. Some people listening might know of him, but so anyways, just from their research and what they are doing, I became more interested in it, and I actually went to a conference down in Tampa. It was a pretty big conference, and there were a lot of people just within the nutrition realm that maybe study keto or have done research with it, or and then just people that came to listen that are following a ketogenic diet and things of that nature. So as we know now, like people, if there's keto people around, there's probably like real food, holistic people around too, just because, it's basically high fat, low carb, which can be what we believe in as nutritional therapists. So anyways, I'm at this conference and I'm kind of talking to a group of people and kind of telling them my struggles as far as, I work in sports nutrition. Like I can kind of tell like this isn't really my thing. It's a really high stress environment. I don't really believe in what they're, giving a lot of these athletes to eat. It just didn't feel right. And I knew that it would click as soon, like whenever I found my niche or like what exactly I wanted to do, I knew that like it would click, and this just wasn't. So I'm talking to them and someone mentioned, they're like, you're all into keto. And I'm like, yes, like I really want to like dive more into this and learn more about, more nourishing foods and high fat foods and how that affects the body and yada, yada. And he's like, you should look into the NTA. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And he said, it's the Nutritional Therapy Association. And he said they're more holistic based. He said they don't follow one nutrition, dogma. They're not like ketogenic, they're not paleo or whatever. He said, you just need to look it up. He's like, it'll, kind of lay it out for you and it'll all make sense. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. And so I got home that night from Tampa and I remember researching the NTA and I'm like, yes, this is my thing. Like, this is what I need to do. It all just it aligned with, and at this time I didn't have extensive knowledge on how real food affects us. And, I knew a lot about ketogenic dieting, but just not on, medicinal foods and holistic nutrition. But I was intrigued enough, and it felt right in my gut. And we all know you need to go with your gut. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna, like there's another class that's starting, here, and enrollment opens in 2 months. I'm gonna enroll. So sure enough, I did. I enrolled as soon as registration opened in September, and I enrolled in the San Diego class. So there actually wasn't anything close out here to me in Florida. The closest one was like Washington, D.C. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I was like, I kind of want to go out west. And my cousin lives in San Diego. So I ended up choosing that. And, you know, I got to see him while I was out there anyways. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And like I said, I just, you know, I had all the intentions of becoming a registered dietitian. That's really what I was going to do, because I thought that was, you know, nutrition, so many of us still think that there's like one way to do things, and like, you know, what they're teaching RDs. I know it's evolving and I know it's changing, but from what I have heard and what I can, you know, put together, it's quite dated. And I saw that firsthand when working in sports nutrition in the US. So, yeah, but like I said, this all sculpted me. Like, I don't regret, you know, ever working at UF and getting to see all of this firsthand. What an amazing, you know, so much experience, and I saw a ton of stuff, but it just wasn't for me. So, you know, you fall down, you get right back up, and you see what the next thing is. So I'm really happy that whoever that guy was that mentioned the NTA to me, gosh, life changing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think that, I mean, I talk about this all the time, like everything happens for a reason, but I feel like if you ask everyone kind of how they found out about the NTA, it's like this crazy, like random story, and it's all like fate or whatever you want to call it, you know? So yeah, it's super cool. Super cool story. So let me ask you this. So kind of talking about, you know, bodybuilding and the restrictive diets and the whole, you know, physical, mental, emotional piece of it. What advice would you give someone who is currently stuck in a cycle of undereating? Undereating, overexercising, and basically just numbing out what their body is trying to tell them, because they obviously have a bigger goal in mind.
Yeah, so this can be hard, because I think, well, some people, like, maybe they're stuck in, well, if they're stuck in the cycle, they're doing it because they're doing it to reach a goal. So, you know, if you are on the competition path to get on stage, you know, you're doing this for a reason. I would say, you know, if you're hearing this, maybe you need to reevaluate your reasons for wanting to do it, because I see there's so many people actually that I follow on Instagram, and, you know, Instagram's it's a great way to connect with people, but you're able to see so many sides of the spectrum now. People that were like all about competing, all about, like, all these shows in a row, and now I look at them and they're going through thyroid dysfunction, like insane amounts of weight gain, you know, their hormones are all jacked up, and it's not pretty. And they openly talk about their struggles, but, and it's really sad, but I know for a fact that all of that has stemmed from them putting their body under such a high amount of stress for so many months or even years, and not giving their body the right nourishment or nutrition. And it took a toll on their body, and their body was like, enough, like, I can't do this, you know? And that's really, it's like, what do you want for yourself? Do you want to have a certain body fat percentage and look a certain way on a stage to get a trophy? Or do you want to be able to have kids and babies and live a normal life later on down the road? So I think that, I mean, I could continue on, but I think that in and of itself, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. You've got to look out for yourself and for your own health, and really take a good hard look at like why you're doing this. And you know, look at the other influencers out there that have done this. You know, when I say this, I mean competing and under eating and over exercising. They did it for, you know, their job. They did it for many months in a row, and now just take a look at them now and see the things that they're struggling with and going through. And like, do you want that for yourself? Because not everyone will go down that path, but I can probably bet that a lot of people will experience some type of dysfunction, whether it be physically with their health, like an autoimmune disease, or with their hormones or anything like that, or mentally with their health, which I think most people will struggle with the mental part of it. They might not admit it, but they will. And then the emotional part too. So it's almost like pick your poison, which is really, really sad to say. But so for girls out there, like, just really reevaluate some things and like, do you really want to do this? Look at what's at risk and what you're putting your body up against.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you make the transition into CrossFit?
So, man, CrossFit. I still love CrossFit. I've actually recently backed off a little bit. So it's funny, I'm kind of going through a little bit of a transition here too, because I'm one of those people, when I find something I love, like just like I did with lifting initially, lifting weights, resistance training. I loved it, was seeing results, loved it. And then I'm like, want to push my body, like, let's do a bodybuilding competition. So then when I moved here, I finally, started going to through the NTA program and doing all of that. And then I met who I now work for them, Chris and Carly Marheska. They own the meal delivery company, Eat the 80, and they also own a CrossFit gym, V3. So I met Chris, and he, I went in for like an intro at his CrossFit gym, and I was like, ooh, like, I drank the Kool-Aid. I love it. It was so, the structure of it, and just the way that you were pushing your body, kind of how I fell into things with bodybuilding and competing, just you get that high and that adrenaline, and it feels really good to be pushing your body to those levels and knowing that you did something like just out of this world, like lifting crazy weights or whatever. So I fell in love with it. It really gave me that adrenaline rush, and I will say the community aspect of it. Oh my gosh, some of the people that I've met at B3 are some of the people, like, when I get married, like, they'll be my wedding, some of my best friends. And they would do anything for me. So I've really gained a family from this. I will say, however, just recently, my life has gotten really busy and stressful. I shouldn't say completely stressful. It's just I'm have my hands full and I'm doing a lot of things. And I found I was still trying to keep up my CrossFit schedule of like 5 days a week, which is a lot of CrossFit. For anyone that knows the intensity of CrossFit, that's a lot. I was constantly sore. Like my hip flexors very tight, and like I get bi-weekly massages, so, and like always just like just everything would always be tight. Like they could never actually get me to completely like loosen up and get out all the knots. And I was just feeling like really run down and tired and unmotivated with my work. So I knew then at that point that I was doing too much, and my body was just like kind of hitting this point where it just needed a break. And I needed to back off of the CrossFit. So right now I can probably say I'm doing 1 to 2 days a week, and I feel so much better. So I think it just comes down to, there again, people just looking at, the big picture and not trying to focus so much on like how many, this is my workout schedule, I have to stick to it. I've got to go 5 days a week, even though I'm so sore and I feel like crap. Like I want to go and work out with my friends, and like, yeah, that's hard because I stopped going like over 50% of the classes that I was going to. People be like, Chelsie, where are you at? I haven't seen you at the gym. Like, you're not backing out on us, are you? And I'm like, no, guys, like I'm trying to take a break a little bit and doing less days per week. So it's a hard conversation sometimes to have with yourself and with other people, but just realizing that, and it's for your own better health and kind of keeping inflammation low. That's really what I'm all about now is, I really love doing long walks. So, and it's very refreshing, and like, even because I do not, a lot of my work now is I'm sitting quite a bit. So it's nice to just go and listen to podcasts and go on a really nice long walk. Of course, I'm here in Florida, so I don't have to deal with snow or anything. So that's always really nice because you're still getting walking is not like a crazy CrossFit workout, but it's still, you're moving your body and you're still, getting some exercise. So yeah, that's kind of how I fell into CrossFit, and gosh, still love CrossFit, but got to be careful with that too. Like anything, you can push yourself way too hard and it can become extreme really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had the same thing with triathlon. So, same type of deal, just got super obsessed with it. And it was just such a great way to hang out with friends. And actually, the two girls that were in my wedding, I met through triathlon. But when I started to back off of it and everything, it was like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you coming to workouts anymore? And it's like, I just physically can't. Like, I'm exhausted all the time. And just working with athletes too that are going through the same struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's so important too when you are, especially coming from like a fitness background where that's just kind of in your routine and you're used to it. It's really hard to kind of get those signals from yourself that like, hey, I'm kind of getting a little tired and worn out. Maybe it's time to chill out a little bit, take a couple days off, do some long walks, maybe even go to yoga. Because a lot of people are so in this mindset of like, no, this is, I got to go lift, I got to go CrossFit, I can't do a walk that doesn't count kind of thing. But you really got to kind of transition that whole, the mindset, the talks that you tell yourself, right? And you got to really just do more of like the self-love, taking it easy, giving your body time to kind of heal and repair and get the inflammation down. Because if you just keep beating yourself, eventually one day it's, you're going to run into a wall, and you definitely don't want to get there. So it's important for people who especially are just kind of in this more rigorous exercise routine to just acknowledge and take the time to listen to their bodies when it's like, all right, I just need to chill out for a little bit, and know that that's okay. Know that you can totally do that and honor that and get back into the routine in, a week or maybe 2 weeks or whatever it is, or just back down a couple of days. But because I think a lot of people, that whole just like transitioning from the, okay, I'm going to acknowledge myself and back down a little bit is the hard part. So,
yeah, I think so too. And people think that they're going to gain weight if they aren't working out and sticking to their schedule. But for the person that's like pushed, like if you're, for my experience, for example, where I was definitely really inflamed all the time from working out so much. So that, of course, like when your body's so inflamed from CrossFit, and for anyone that's actually done CrossFit, like, what I mean, like your quads are sore. Like you can literally see like the puffiness on your quads from working out. So it's just like a different, it can get out of control. So you really need to take a step back and like let your body repair from that and give it the food that it needs to repair from that. And gosh, not even to mention women, us, our cycles each month as well. So then, dealing with that and kind of needing to give ourselves more of a break and relaxation and focusing on self-care around that time. So yeah, I will say backing off a little bit has been exceptional for me. And especially, being able to take some time then to focus on like things that I really need to work on, is like with my like the Restart program and my current job now, Eat the 80, which is my day job. When I'm not always exhausted from CrossFit, you can look at that, you can put more mental energy into other things. So so it's just been better all around. My career goals have gotten better, and it's not like my body has suffered, I'm still getting workouts in. So, and I feel great. And I think that's really what it comes back to, is how do you feel? If you feel tired and crappy and run down, like nobody wants to feel that way. Working out should make you feel good. So.
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
going back to, you mentioned something, I forget your exact phrasing. It was about, like your mental energy that you can put into your work. So you recently just spoke at the FitCon Summit. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this was such a cool opportunity. So at FitCon, for people that are listening, it's out in Salt Lake City, Utah. It was just about 3 weekends ago. So April, about the first weekend of April. So April like 4th, 5th, and 6th, I do believe, something like that. And it's a huge fitness expo primarily, but they also this year had the FitCon Summit. And I got a chance to speak on a panel with a few other women who are fitness influencers, and they are all keto. So it was a keto Q&A panel, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to kind of bring another perspective. I was like, I didn't mention this to you guys, but I've followed a ketogenic diet before, but it didn't really work out for me. And I was able to give that perspective in contrast to what they were saying. So they've all had wonderful experiences. One of the women, her name is Keto Katie, and she's keto right now. She absolutely loves it. Her husband had cancer, and so she put him on a ketogenic diet, and he is now cancer free, which is amazing. So obviously keto is very therapeutic for those types of things. And then the Fit Trainer's Wife is what she's known by on Instagram. Her name is Liz Williams, though. She just wrote a cookbook called the One Pot Ketogenic Cookbook, I believe. And she is keto, and she's amazing. She is very much she has paired up with another girl, and they have put out like a fitness program, and of course like helping people get into a ketogenic diet. So hers is more like fitness based. And then Jenny Lynn was the other girl on the panel, and she was actually part of FitCon. Like she helped put it together. So but she's also following a ketogenic diet, and she has some other certifications. She's not a nutritional therapy practitioner, but I think she's gone through one of those other programs where they focus more on like mindset. I can't remember the name of the school, but so she has some background too with holistic nutrition and nutritional therapy. So we got to talk on that panel, answer some really good questions from some women in the audience and some men too. And yeah, it was super fun because I was able to kind of, you don't think you know a lot until people start asking you questions. And then I was like, wow, like where's all of this information, this knowledge? I'm just like, this is great. So it was really fun. And I hope that I get to do something like that again and be able to actually impact people and help people work through those things, or, just giving my other perspective too. They're able to see, keto works great for these people, but, she did it and this is why it didn't work great for her, so they can kind of weigh out their options. And then if they do try it and it doesn't work for them, then they're not like, but wait, all these people do it and it works for them. Why isn't it working for me? So I think it was a nice change of pace there to have, the reasons why or what might go wrong with keto. So.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a cool opportunity. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
That's
one thing I need to get more ballsy about is just doing like talks and stuff, because the information that we learn in the NTA is so, 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 so valuable. And it's so important that we share this knowledge that we have, like whenever we can, wherever we can. So doing stuff like that, I mean, that's just awesome. It's what we should all be doing as NTPs, and what just a cool experience too. And the people that you meet and the relationship that you build from that, that's super neat.
Yeah, it was awesome to be able to, connect with some of the people out there. And it's coming out on video soon. I want to let people know, because I want to take some snippets of it and put it actually on my Instagram. So maybe keep an eye out for that. I'm not sure when the video will be ready though, but man, like they had Tom, you guys might know him, Tom Bilyeu. He started Quest Nutrition. He's actually he has like his own show now. I think it's basically like a YouTube type deal called Impact Theory. So they talk about, it's aside from nutrition related stuff, and kind of like Lewis Howes does, how he interviews people and kind of, asks them how they got to success and that type of deal. So yeah, lots of amazing people out there, great opportunities. And I agree, like anytime you get a chance to make yourself do something that's scary, you should do it. Because that's what I thought. I'm like, like when I first got asked to do it, I'm like, like that's kind of, there's gonna be all these people there. I'm gonna have like a microphone and be on stage. But I was like, this really freaks me out, but I should probably do it.
Yeah, I love that. It freaks me out. I definitely need to do it.
Yeah. If it's gonna be awesome and it scares the shit out of you, you should do it.
Yes. Words to live by.
Yeah. Wise words of advice for everyone out there. That's awesome.
I love it. Okay, well, Chelsie, I feel like we could talk to you forever and ever, but we will respect your time. So why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you, connect with you, stalk you, all of that good stuff.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, thankfully I only have one area where you can find me, at least right now. On Instagram, you can find me at capturehealth_Chels. Right now I don't have a like Facebook or for my business or anything like that. So basically everything that I'm putting out there for my viewers is going to be on Instagram. So yeah, go follow me there.
Excellent. Yeah, we were just talking earlier that Facebook business pages are basically a waste of time.
I feel the same way.
Instagram is where it's at. So, and I have to say, I love your Instagram stories, like, because I have the 5-minute journal too. So I'm always like so excited to like someday we're going to be on the same page.
That's amazing. Oh, okay. Ryan Lowry, who I mentioned earlier, he has one too, and he will post his thing sometimes. He's like a couple of days behind me. And I noticed that I was like, hey, don't check my stories because I'm a couple days ahead of you and I'm going to spoil like every single quote for you. So, but yeah, that 5-minute journal, it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, definitely recommend it.
I need to invest.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is, Megan?
I've heard you talk about it so many times. I see your stories. I check out your quote of the day all the time, every day. I super dig it, but yeah, I haven't actually like looked into it.
Okay.
One day.
There you go. All right, Chelsie. Well, thank you so much for having us on. We so enjoyed getting to get to know you better, and just thank you for everything that you do with spreading health and wellness with the Restart program and just everything that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of your words to all of the other women out there. It was super, super inspiring and really encouraging. And I think it was really also educating and great for someone who's out there, doing a bodybuilding competition that's going through, maybe a physical and an emotional struggle, to just hear someone that was really successful at it and then also came out of it and made a great story about it. So just thank you so much for everything that you shared and getting super deep and emotional with us. That was really cool.
Oh, thanks, guys. I mean, I gotta say, I loved being on here and talking about it. And I actually think this is the first, public display of my little story. So you guys captured the first Capture Health with Chelsea story.
Yay!
Yeah, but again, yeah, thanks so much, guys. It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Definitely.
Cool.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.